Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. We're going to talk about some pretty evil stuff today, but I wanted to thank you all. We just hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. I haven't been doing this very long, and like I mentioned, it's not going to grow as fast as other channels are because I don't put dumb shit out there. I don't put um, political hot takes. I'm not a partisan. I don't, appeal to one side. I appeal to people who really want to get into the deep gnosis of things. And one of the things in my first book that is mostly touched on is MK Ultra. And I have with me a lady from the UK who's a deprogrammer. So we're gonna get into all sorts of MK Ultra stuff. So let me bring Selene on. Hi there.
Hi,
Thank you for doing this.
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So um how did you get into all of this? Were you forgive me for asking, but like um were you programmed at one point? Were you abused? I'm so sorry to ask, but I need to understand the backstory to see where you got to today.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'm a survivor of MK Ultra. My family were connected to the Illuminati, so I was trafficked as well and went through all the mind control. So that's kind of how I got into it, really. Remembering that and then deprogramming myself.
Hmm. So a lot of the things that we talk about with MK Ultra is they're basically creating multiple personality disorder, right? Because what they do is they get your main personality to take a backseat, and then they create a new one that they could basically mold with a fresh mind
Yeah.
to basically do things or so. Have you come across any of your previous personalities? Have you been able to keep them below? Do they still come up?
I've integrated a lot of my altars now, um, possibly even all of them. I don't have any switching anymore.
Okay. Now, usually, so I have a friend who used to have seizures and had brain surgery, and he told me that when a seizure would come on, um, because the brain basically shuts down. The brain is electric, and you're basically having a surge of electricity. That's what it basically is. And he said that he never remembered his seizures, but he said that right before he would get like a really bad stomach ache and then something like that. Were there any trigger markings or that you used to have that would let you know that you were about to switch or something?
Not that I can remember, not that I noticed. Anger would make me switch actually. If I got very angry, that would kind of make me switch into a more angrier altar that would take over, and was very protective of my front, I suppose.
Uh huh.
Um, but yeah, there wasn't anything significant like seizures or anything.
Right. What you do see, it's interesting because in a lot of when they show you things like MK Ultra, like in the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson, or they show you any type of MK Ultra deal, not MK Ultra deal, but if they show you any multiple personalities people, what they do in TV shows is they show that usually the main personality is weak and then a stronger personality comes out to protect. But
Yeah.
I feel like is that how it works with MK Ultra as well?
Yeah, I'd say so. My altar would definitely take over and was stronger than I used to be.
Do you remember any of the programming? I mean, surely maybe some of it stuck, I suppose, because there comes a point where your mind basically comes into two decisions. You're either going to die, or your mind has to stop feeling this pain and switch to someone else who they can then compartmentalize it.
Yeah. What was the question? Sorry.
Sorry, no, the question was basically, actually, I don't even know if there was a question. So, do you want to take us through your backstory and how you got to the point where you're at right now?
So I was born into it. My family connected to like Knights Templar. Um, I was trafficked a lot as a child, so I went through the military, MK Ultra,
Hmm.
also hypnosis. My handlers were good at doing that, and I had trauma-based mind control as well. I was trained as what's known as a better sex kitten. So one of my alters was like a cat. I remember being conditioned to that. That's quite a tough thing to go through from what I remember. That was probably one of the hardest. There's all sorts of different programming they do. They get you to teach how to be silent as well and keep the secret. So they'll put you through training and kind of set you up on things to make sure that you can keep a secret. You can be trained to deliver messages as well. So I was quite good with a photographic memory. So I'd be used for things like that. I remember going to Canada, into America. Don't remember what the messages were. I just know that's one of the things I was doing.
So would you go through long periods of time with just no memory?
Did I go through long periods of time? So seems around 1993, it seemed to change. Everything changed. So I started living what I'd call a more normal life. I got married not a few years after that. I had 4 children. I was going to college. So that side, I was still getting switched into alters and used, but I wasn't aware this was happening at all. I forget what you asked me now.
No, it's okay. It's okay. God, there's so many questions. What would some of the things you would be used to do for?
Rituals, orgies, like sex parties. When I was older, I remember being used to train other women. So I was put into an altar for that because I don't remember doing it. That wasn't ever a part of my normal life.
And now you help deprogram people.
Yeah, now I help people. Yeah, I'm a spiritual healer. So I use CBT and things like the therapy side, but I also
Cognitive behavioral therapy, right?
yeah.
Okay.
But I also do the energy work as well.
Uh-huh. And how do you find these women? I'm assuming it's a lot of women that you're deprogramming, right? Because it's just easier. How do you find these women? Are you still connected to these people and you just kind of pull them out?
No, I don't know any other survivors myself, other than what I've met. I don't know anyone I grew up with. But they kind of get attracted to me. So I do posts on Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel. So I put content out there and get people coming to me and just asking to work with me.
So what I talk about in my first book, when I mention is that they do a lot of things when they're programming you. One of the things they'll do, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, they'll rip your fingernails off with
Yeah.
pliers. They do that. They put you in a 55-gallon drum, oil drum filled with lukewarm water, and then you sit in it. They put you in it and they cover the top so you have no sense of time, and your limbs don't feel the gravity. So you're just floating in a tank, and it really disorients you. And they go
Yeah.
into all this kind of stuff. Is this the stuff that's still kind of used, or have they upgraded their programming since the 90s and 80s, I suppose? I'm sure they're always learning new ways to program people, but are they still using these very basic ways of torture?
They were with me when I was growing up. I haven't come across anyone younger than me really who I've worked with client wise.
Uh-huh.
I know they are using a lot more AI now to do it.
How so?
I'm not entirely sure the process. I haven't really delved into it. I've not experienced it personally.
To be
It's
honest
just
with you, that's a good thing that you don't know. That's a good thing that you don't know. Wow. Okay, so this was your parents that put you through this.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have any siblings?
Yeah.
And they went through it too?
Yeah. They've all joined their side, as I like to call it. I've never conformed into anything like that. And my family were into incest and everything as well. That's never been who I am. I've always been against all that and paedophilia and
Oh, wow.
yes, that's why it was kept hidden from me really from 93 onwards. And I kind of felt like I was living this more normal life
Uh-huh.
because I was never going to conform. But I found out since that my brothers, even though they're younger than me, did become my handlers when they
Really?
grew up. Yeah.
So how do you speak about it freely right now? Are you worried of retribution? Are you worried, or are you just kind of like at this point?
Not really. They've kind of done everything to me really that they can. I've got nothing left. So I want to help other people get out of it, show them that there is a way we can heal from this, and then we can help other people. And it's like dominoes, just have a knock-on effect.
I'm assuming people find you at this point. One
Yeah,
of the other things that I talk about in one of my first books is the way that I really got into this was there was a survivor like yourself who used to have multiple personality disorder. Um, and what they do with it basically is like you have your mind right now and you have all your stream of memories, but if you switch to someone else, they have their own set of memories and everything.
yeah,
So it's basically and you don't feel it's not the same consciousness. Like you're basically how do you phrase it? You're basically on like it's not auto tune, but you're basically on autopilot as you're going through this kind of stuff. One of the first ways I learned about it, I heard about a deprogrammer called Svali, who went online and she started posting all these interviews about this kind of stuff that she did. Um, Now she was deprogrammed in this, and then one day she just disappeared off the internet, and no one's ever heard from her since. But she was able to get a lot of information out there, and I point to a lot of people towards this. This is truly happening. This is really happening.
yeah,
Um, and you're familiar with her, right? Her and her work.
yeah. That was one of the books I read when I was learning about all this. When I started remembering, I had no idea what it was. I had to go and research, and it was hearing other stories like Jay Parker that I was like, wow, that's what happened to me. And then I was able to start putting names to things that had happened.
Could you give people a couple book recommendations on how to get started with this outside of this interview that we're doing and what I just mentioned about Svali if you were to look her up?
Yeah, so I used Svali. Did she do the Deprogram wiki?
I
Can't remember.
believe she was on it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I did that one as well. And Spritz Meyer, is it? I think
I think
so.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some good books on it.
Okay. So, what do you do with yourself for a day to day basis? Are you enthralled in this? Have you made this your mission?
Yeah, well, I do quite a lot of stuff really. I do this. I've just found astrotheology through you. So I've been doing that a lot more and kind of integrating that.
Have you been following my videos on it?
Yeah,
What do you think of it?
I love it. I was kind of looking for it, but I didn't know what I was looking for. And then when I stumbled across your work, I was like, that's it. Like I knew there was more to astrology, and I knew that they'd used astrology with me as a child, but I didn't know where that all came into it.
Are you able to explain any of the astrology that they used against you? Because I talk about how they use astrology against us.
Yeah, they actually changed my birth date. So I believe I was born a Scorpio.
Uh-huh.
But because I think they learned quite early on that I was never going to conform, they switched me to a Capricorn. So then I had a January birthday. So I think they've used astrology there to change the energies within me because that's definitely had an effect. And it's funny how energy can affect you in such a way. It's not really
Well,
until you have.
how do you mean they changed your sign? Like on your birth certificate, they changed the date and the time?
Yeah, they changed it. They changed my birthday, so I grew up thinking I was like 2 years younger than what I actually am.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
How are you in such a place where you're able to talk about this without losing it? If I could be so frank.
I've been on my healing journey now for, ooh, well, started waking up around 2012 and learning more about spiritual healing, then losing all blame, shame, guilt, that kind of thing.
That's when I woke up to astrotheology and everything, and I started studying it, and then eventually started teaching it. Yeah, 2012 was a big shift for a lot of us.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
the end of Pisces, and it was the beginning of Aquarius. Huge shift. Huge
yeah.
shift. Um, wow, wow. So, oh God, I have no idea how to like. I've never had an interview like this. This is so like, um,
So
so
then 2019, I got my memories back, and that just kind of answered so many
how
questions.
did that happen?
Um, that was actually my husband. My husband was involved in this, my second husband. Didn't know that at the time. We thought we'd met in 95. Actually, turns out we'd been trafficked together as kids. And something had happened to one of our little ones. And it kind of triggered a memory in him. And he was like, "What? Why can I see your dad abusing me?" And I was like, "What? My dad? Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah, I've got a vision basically in my head now of your dad." And then suddenly I kind of got this vision into focus, and it was my dad abusing me in the back of a car. So then I was like, "Whoa, why am I seeing these things?" And then it kind of just progressed from there. So it explained a lot for me, why I'd been pushed out, why I felt abandoned all my life. So that brought me healing as well, and brought me out of the victim mode. Obviously, it was hard at first, remembering all these memories and re-feeling it and having to go through it and piece my life back together, how it actually was, the truth of things.
Yeah,
But it was so liberating at the same time. Like the truth literally does set you free.
I could imagine. Wow. So your parents were involved with the Templars, right? Um, and I don't want to go into the Templars right now, but they were involved in the Templars, and a lot of people who have happened, like Charles Manson and a lot of these people. I'm not going to name a bunch, but a lot of these people they have, or Mark David Chapman, for example, with Lennon. A lot of these people have they're MK Ultra, but they have a family member or a father who's in the CIA. I don't know if you know, like Andrew Tate, for example, his father's in the CIA, and that seems to be like a big precursor. I feel like do these government agencies use MK Ultra? Are there levels to this? Like when you I'm sure when you're very young and they bring you up through it, it's so that they can use you to do anything.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, I mean, was there an end game for you? Was there like a plan for you that you had to do something? Like they never sent you to kill anyone, did they?
Not that I'm aware of. That's not come up in my memories. I
Okay.
seem to be a sex trainer, basically, and just getting trafficked around. I remember DJs being at elite parties. That was more my role. But then other ones have drug dealing as well. There's a lot of that. My family were also involved in that, and especially in the sport world.
What
So,
kind of drugs? Party drugs?
yeah, coke.
Ecstasy, I'm sure, ketamine,
Yeah.
MDMA, that kind of stuff, right? Um, wow. So, how long have you been free on your own?
Um, Going into the fourth year now.
Okay. And have you thought of writing a book?
Yeah, I'm in the middle of writing a book.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, it's not fantastic, but it is fantastic, if that makes any kind of sense. I would love to promote it when it's ready. Um,
Thank you.
what? Do you want to take us through your book, like how you have the chapters outlined, what you, like, what's your purpose for the book? Because every book has a purpose, right? It has a
Yeah.
purpose. It wants to make you think, or it wants to get a certain point across, or it just wants to explain something in an allegory. What is your book's purpose?
To bring healing, I suppose, like a deprogram manual. So if I'm going to go in and explain my story of what I went through, how I came about my healing, and how I've kind of done that, and how you can do that yourself. Because it is possible to do it without a therapist, and sometimes, in a lot of cases, it can be better as well.
Right.
Because it depends on the therapist. You have to be so careful because there's so much infiltration out there. They don't want us being deprogrammed, so
Oh yeah.
people will be strategically placed.
Well, the interesting thing too is they found that a lot of these psychiatrists, and again, my view on everything is there is no answer for every single person. Like
Yeah,
medicine or a psychiatrist is not the answer for one person and then it's not for the other. It doesn't mean that just because there's a pill out there or a book or an individual, a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they are meant for everybody. We are all individuals. We are all unique. We have different breakups, and you find what helps you. But what they have found is that a lot of these psychiatrists, what they do is when they do regressive, like hypnosis, what they
yeah,
do is sometimes they lead people and they plant false memories into their mind.
yeah,
You're familiar with that, right?
yeah.
That's never happened to you, has it?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Gotcha.
I haven't gone to any therapists like that for healing, so I haven't had
Gotcha.
any hypnotherapy or anything.
So when did you wrap your mind around the fact that holy shit, this all happened to me? When did that all hit you?
Probably took about a year. I kind of remembered it, but I felt a bit like a detective, like
Uh-huh.
looking in and trying to piece it together. And there was a lot of questioning at first, like, am I just going mad? Did this really happen? But I think it helped having my husband there, because I think if it wasn't for him backing me up on certain stuff or him reminding me of things, yeah, it probably would have been a lot harder to kind of accept.
Right. Um, One of the things they don't want to talk about, and again, I'm in the business of explaining things and sharing information. When they put you in sex work, especially as a woman in MK Ultra, one of the things they don't talk about is that there's pregnancies that are involved sometimes,
Yeah,
and the forced abortions and the ritual that happens
yeah,
with the fetus. Do you have any memories of any of of coming across that? Because you know what I'm talking about, right? And
yeah.
guys, it is as disgusting and awful as what I just said. I just don't want to go into more detail than that because there's no need to. But you're familiar with that, right?
Yeah, my family were actually called a fertility cult. So I got pregnant from quite a young age, um, and that's quite a common theme. They do that throughout the families, um, and most of them are just born for ritual.
Yeah. They have no social security numbers, no
No,
IDs, nothing, and they
no.
don't exist. And then they're used for adrenochrome rituals. Did you ever have any of? Have you ever come across any adrenochrome rituals?
Not that I can remember specifically, but I do know that before any ritual, we'd get brought somewhere to basically have fun. So the happier you are when you go into these things, it's kind of the opposite of the negative effect is also a lot higher. So there was a lot of that going on, but adrenochrome wise, I can't say I've got a vivid memory.
Right. And for people who are unfamiliar with what that is, what they do is so you have the newborn baby, and what you do is the adrenal glands in the body sit on top of the kidneys. And what they do is they secrete, there's four main neurotransmitters. You have your serotonin, which is in your mind, in your brain. That's what people use SSRIs for, is it blocks the reuptake. The reuptake is basically when you're trying to make a connection from one to another, instead of it making the connection, it goes a little bit and then it reuptakes and then it comes back and then it reuptakes. It never makes the full connection. So what it does, these SSRIs, is they block the reuptake and they allow the connection to go through. But most of your serotonin comes from your gut, which is why when you meet somebody that you find attractive and they find you attractive, you get butterflies. That's just serotonin going off in your stomach. The other thing is you have norepinephrine, you have epinephrine, and you have dopamine. And we all know what dopamine is, but the epinephrine is what I'm talking about. The epinephrine is adrenochrome. It's literally adrenochrome. In fact, if you were to take an EpiPen and you were to oxidize it, like expose it to light for a few minutes, and then inject it, it is no different, zero difference between that and adrenochrome. What they do is they take the infant and they terrify it, and then it secretes all these chemicals and it secretes adrenaline, and then you take the blood and you ingest it, and it's a drug, and that's what they do. It's absolutely disgusting. Do you have any memories of any rituals?
Not full rituals, no. I can remember bits of ones, but
Do you
not
remember
massive.
any? Do you remember anything?
Um,
Was it people in like cloaks having sex on table, like that kind of stuff, like they show?
yeah, there was robes. It was normally me and my husband were actually paired off together. I have been researching into this. It seems to be something to do with a positive and a negative that they
Yeah.
need for the energy purposes.
Right, right.
So we were kind of laid out on altars, but that's really as far as it goes. Not got massive memories on that. I think I'm quite protected, really. I think I've needed to remember what I need to remember.
Yeah, I understand. I understand, and I really appreciate you doing this interview. Um, are you familiar with spirit cooking?
Yeah. Again, I don't know if I went through that, if
That's
I've
fine.
witnessed it or anything, but yeah.
Can you explain to people how? Because I've seen it done mocked. I've seen a mock spirit cooking with Marina Abramovich, but I have not seen it actually done in ritual. Can you explain how the spirit cooking works or what you actually know of it?
No, just what you do with that Marina Abramovich thing. That's it, really.
Okay. All right, guys, I'll make a short video on that. Wow. So how did you get into deprogramming? Because you figured out your stuff. How long ago did you figure it out? You said 4 years ago?
Yeah, about 2019, the memories started coming back, and then I probably started deprogramming quite soon after, although I wasn't totally aware that's what I was doing at first. So I was also having a spiritual awakening. So I kind of deprogrammed myself with spiritual beliefs and concepts and losing all the blame, shame, and guilt, replacing all negative thoughts with positive thoughts, learning to love myself. So I kind of tackled it that way and then realized that, this is actually working with the deprogramming side of things as well.
That's wonderful. So in the span of 4 years, you went from remembering a bunch of things to going through that mania, not wondering if it was real or not, or if you're going crazy, to realizing that it was real, to then healing from it, to now helping other people. You did that in 4 years?
Yeah, well, I'm still doing it.
Well,
And a
yeah,
lot.
of course.
But yeah, that's it's been a 4 year journey so far. I did do a lot of healing before that anyway, like depression, anxiety, learning all about narcissists because I'd been through that challenge as well.
Mhm.
So I was kind of building a foundation, I suppose. So when it got to this point that I had to start healing from the SRA and things, I'd already had a bit of an advantage.
I understand. Wow. How did you come across the first person that you started to help out?
Trying to think who the first person was. It was in one of the groups on Facebook anyway.
Are there deprogramming groups on Facebook?
Not so much deprogramming, no. It's more a place for a support group for survivors. I
Right.
haven't really seen anyone doing any deprogramming.
But there is this kind of abuse that happens that isn't MK Ultra, right? Like you could be abused by your family. You could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be MK Ultra. Are the people that you're helping MK Ultra or not?
Some are, some aren't.
I figured.
It depends how high up you are. The last client I had, she was like me, so she was going to New York to the Central, whatever it is, with the Rockefellers. She was involved in all that back in the 60s, and meeting the Pope and things. So that was both, that was military and the trauma based. But then I've met others that the parents aren't so high up and they've just had the trauma based mind control, which is or hypnosis as well. That's also quite common.
So what I didn't expect to hear when I started this interview was in the same way that like societies and families and everything has a hierarchy, there's an MK Ultra hierarchy too.
Yeah. It's hierarchy and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is wild. How do we defeat this?
I think we just need to reach as many people as possible and wake them up and or deprogram.
Right.
We can't just tackle this in one go. I know a lot of people say it's the 1%, but that's at the top of the hierarchy. You've got all these ones at the bottom that are all under mind control or knowingly a part of it, a willing participant. Because like cartel and everything are involved, aren't they? Connected at certain points.
Yeah, it's interesting too because you have the for the people with MK Ultra, there's people who are going to start watching this video. I know this. They're going to listen to 15 minutes or 10 minutes and they're going to turn it off because it makes them feel so uncomfortable and they're going to convince themselves that this isn't really happening.
Yeah.
And it is. And people are talking out about it. People are starting to wake up from it.
Yeah, you need to be brought in about every 2 to 4 years to have your programming tweaked because it will naturally break down anyway.
Well, yeah, that's what you see with celebrities that
Yeah.
like go batshit crazy and then they have to go into the hospital for dehydration. They go to one of these facilities and then they just get tuned in. It's very much like, you ever seen The Manchurian Candidate? It's very similar to that.
No.
You've never seen it? I would not recommend for you to watch it though, because it's probably going to trigger you. But it was a it was a remake actually of a Frank Sinatra movie. It was a Denzel Washington and a Liev Schreiber movie, where basically they MK Ultra this platoon in the military, and then Liev Schreiber's character, his mother is what's her name? Like the most famous. I can't remember. Oh, Meryl Streep. That's it.
Oh yeah.
And he's just MK Ultra, and they try to make him the president, so they can have someone in there. It's absolutely wild. How big of a problem is this? How many people do you think this actually affects?
A hell of a lot of people. I think they stepped up the game, especially around the 40s. I think a lot of World War II was used for this programming. They brought in more incest. I see it like an infection, like a black goo that's infected everything. So they've gone into normal families, and then that's now carrying on down the generational line as well. So it's massive. There's a lot of it going on. I think it's a lot bigger than what people think because they don't kind of focus on this lower level. They all talk about the ones at the top, but
Right.
it's the people we're around, isn't it? We've got to live with these people under mind control and stuff.
How much is child abuse and like child porn figure into this?
Heavily. I was
Do you have
neglected
I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you finish, but I'd like you to explain to me why.
because they don't have any emotions. We're not allowed emotions. We're kind of brought up to be robots, really. So they don't see you as a child like most loving people do. So the abuse comes with that as well. Also, if you're not getting things right, the abuse will come there. If you're under the trauma-based mind control, the abuse comes in. They do like to starve you as well and cause undernourishment. I'm not sure why. A lot of the time before rituals will get put through fasts as well.
Right.
That's to help the
Well,
energy.
see, in a healthy way, the idea behind fasts is it cleans you out, both
Yeah,
literally, physically, and mentally, spiritually. That's why a lot of these religions have fasts in them. What they do is after 3 days of not eating solid food, your immune system restarts itself. That's how it's done in a positive way. But of course, that's what the elites do is they pervert everything. They
yeah,
invert it and pervert it. So they probably just keep you in a weakened state.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. Just heartless, soulless.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do they give you alternate names? Like
Uh,
you're Selene, but like would one of your alternates be like Brenda or something?
well, my actual name that I was given is Emma.
Okay.
Selene's kind of like my work name, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure about the altars. I do have another name. Obviously, the name I was born with and my original birth certificate. I haven't remembered what that is yet, though. That's really locked down. They do that with a lot of the memories as well. It's almost like they lock them away, and some are easier to recall than others. So yeah, my original name is one of them.
Did you have a breakdown and needed to be reprogrammed that you remember?
Yeah, I
Because
had
this
lots
happens.
of
It does happen because it's a house of cards. All your personalities with all their information that they only know. I mean, your writing changes, your tone of voice changes, your accent, your personality, everything is just different from one another. It's a house of cards. Your mind can't carry that. And then eventually it breaks, and then you need to be tuned. It's like an oil change, basically.
yeah.
Um, wow.
Yeah.
So, are you still with your husband now?
No, we kind of got split up by child services. We went to the police and reported what had happened. This was before we even knew it was SRA. We just thought it was trafficking and child abuse. And within 6 days, one of the top people in the police had ordered child services to come and take the kids. So they got put into care. So then I had to fight that for like 18 months. I had to get evidence to discredit what they were saying because they were trying to put them up for adoption. But once we started realizing how high it actually goes in our story, it kind of made sense that we were silenced. They used kids to silence us. And it worked because we didn't go try and push it with the police after that. I was just fighting over the kids, trying to recall all the memories I could to like remember what I was dealing with, who these people were, and that's kind of what it became about then. And it never went to the police. Still haven't spoke to the police, and I wouldn't now. I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah. Wow.
That's what I meant before, and I said I've lost everything. There's nothing left for them to
You know,
take.
it's interesting because I talk about this in my first book too. Do you ever wonder why everyone in the church, right? Everyone in the church, the Pope, the cardinals, all these high priests, they are never allowed to have families.
Yeah,
Now they do have orgies, they do sleep with people, they do get people pregnant, but they're never allowed to have families.
yeah,
And you ever wonder why in the UK and in the US, for example, to become a politician or a high up figure, you have to have a family. And the reason is because it's leverage over you. You know, stay in line or we'll come after your family. Where
yeah,
the Jesuits and the Pope and all those people in the church, the cardinals, the high ups, um, they all have to be loyal to the church. They can't have families because that is a weakness. So it's interesting how they all can't have families, but to become a politician, you have to have a family, right?
yeah.
Almost 99% of the politicians have families. So that's what I talk about. That's basically how I see it. Um,
I'd
do you,
say that's right.
yeah. Do you still talk to your children?
The three elder ones won't speak to me. They were completely alienated by my first husband, who was turned out now to be a handler. My younger three, I get to see them 4 to 6 times a year as it stands currently, though I'm hoping that's about to go up. But they're actually with my second husband that I was trafficked with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got all that evidence in, it stopped them getting adopted, but they put a clause in right at the end that if I agree to them living with him and me moving out, they can go home. Otherwise, they're going to push for adoption. So by this point, I was totally disheartened because I thought, well, once I got this evidence into court, they'll throw it out. And they never did. And we got to this point. So I was like, they could easily get those kids adopted. No one's listening to my evidence. So I agreed to that. I'm thinking to myself, I'll just continue fighting it, but at least they'll be home with the dad.
Yeah. Are you on friendly terms with dad number two?
Well, we haven't spoke for a while because that was also part of the court agreement. But that's just about to get it's getting closed on the 17th of April.
Uh-huh.
So then we'll be able to speak more, and hopefully I'll be able to see the kids more then.
Okay, well, I wish you all the best with that. I mean, I can't imagine how much pain you've gone through your life.
Thank you.
I try to help people free them from religious guilt. That's what I do in my astrotheology. I try to free them from guilt. I try to free them through hell, through Baphomet, Satan, Lucifer. I try to free them from the book of Revelation. I try and free them from all of that. That's what my purpose in my work is. And one of the things I try to do is try and stay positive with that. So, what brings you peace and how do you stay positive despite everything that you've been through?
I believe in the creator source. I feel love from that. I feel love for myself, and I feel like I'm here for a purpose to help at this time because it is a spiritual warfare. And so that kind of gives me the drive to keep going, really.
Wow. So what's coming up next for you?
Just hopefully speaking out more, getting this book out there, reaching more people with healing and deprogramming. And yeah, I'm not really sure what else. See what opens up, I guess.
Wow.
I
Okay.
feel like I'm just getting started, really.
Good. That's a good feeling.
Yeah,
Having a purpose.
yeah,
You know, this was all put onto you unfairly. You know, it's a really ugly feeling this thing gives you. Though the handler, your first marriage, how did you find out he was your handler?
only from the memories after, and uh, I kind of got away in 2011. It was before my 2012 awakening, and I went to uni, and everything went really bad from that point. They'd come back in again and got into my head. So then I was starting to doubt myself that I couldn't do uni anymore. I was feeling depressed. I didn't understand why. I was getting feelings like I couldn't cope because I had my kids with me. But I'd gone through months of being happy. I was away from my husband. It wasn't a happy marriage anyway. And yeah, just suddenly, about 10 months later, he kidnapped the kids and kept them on the Isle of Man, which was where we were originally from. And yeah, just went from there. My whole family turned against me, and it was he had an affair, which was what was ended it and prompted me to move on my own. But everyone treated me like it was me that had the affair. It was dead weird. So that messed with my head as well.
Uh,
I forget what you asked me now.
no, it's okay. I was just wondering how you found out he was the handler.
Oh yeah, so remembering all that in 2019 and then looking back, it made me realize that he'd known the whole time. When I'd been sent away on certain missions, I suppose you could call it, he was fully aware of it, but he never ever said anything. Like when I came back and slotted back into normal life, he did too. Anyone that wasn't involved would be questioning, where have you been? Where did you go? Who have you been with? There was never any of that. He went along with it. He's also a computer programmer, so he could get to me when I was sleeping. If you talk to someone when they're asleep, especially in I think it's the theta waves, isn't it? You can get into their head that way subconsciously. It's like hypnosis, but doing it under sleep. Just what he did with the kids, the way my family stood by him, and then remembering his parents were involved when I was little. I remembered them. I hadn't remembered them when we were married. I knew there was something I didn't like, but I hadn't remembered anything about that. And it turned out that my auntie worked with his mum in a hairdresser's, and I remember going to the hairdressers as a kid. That was never ever talked about the whole time we were together.
Wow.
It's
So just all this stuff just piled up.
yeah.
Wow. So how do people support you?
Um,
How can people who are watching, if they wanted to, support you?
in what way? Like following me on my channels or
On your channels, financially, whatever it might be.
yeah. I do have a donation button for anyone, a link, sorry, for anyone that wants to donate. I'm on various social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Although I don't really get on Instagram and TikTok much because my content tends to go over. So the best place really is probably YouTube. And I am trying to grow my channel.
Okay, and what is your name on social media and what is your YouTube channel?
So it's Selene Althea, Althera on Facebook. On YouTube, you can find me at Old Souls Awakenings. And then, yeah, it's the same for the other ones as well, Instagram and TikTok at Old Soul Awakenings. And then I've got a website as well, just .com on the end.
Okay, well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. Um, I would like to help you any way that I can, so I will reach out to me and on the other social medias. I know I have you on Facebook, but basically, if people wanted to learn more of this, or if they suspect that something's not right in their life, or they just need somebody who's been through hell and back to show them how to appreciate and love life. Reach out to you, right?
Yeah. I'm always open to questions or anything.
All right, Selene, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry this was such an uncomfortable one, but it had to be done.
All
So,
right. Thank you for having me.
thank you.
All right. Take care.